Democrats in the House and Senate are seeking to hike taxes on private jet fuel from 22 cents a gallon to $1.95 per gallon. They're calling it the Fat Cat Act, which stands for Fueling Alternative Transportation with a Carbon Aviation Tax. Private jets emit at least 10 to 20 times more pollutants than commercial planes per passenger, which I get. The planes don't get smaller with the less amount of passengers that they're carrying, right? There's luxury there. They got space. So I get that. But the wealthiest 1% of air travelers are responsible for about half of all aviation carbon emissions, which I don't get. Like, that's horrible.
Okay.
Do you understand that stat?
I hear that stat. I mean, I've heard that aviation emissions have been slightly, um, not scapegoated, but I've heard that it's not as much of a contributor as one might think.
It's not so much aviation fuel being a contributor to climate change compared to other
Yeah,
polluting factors.
that's what I was thinking.
It's
Yeah.
You're siloing for a second the conversation around aviation fuel, period, not
Okay.
in comparison to anything else.
Okay. Okay.
1%, the wealthiest 1% of air travelers are responsible for half of aviation emissions.
Okay. So the question is then, with a tax, are you trying? And this is where I get into it. People, this is my.
Do you want to
this
know
is,
do you want to know another stat before you ask the question, or do you
Oh
want to
yeah,
ask
yeah,
your
sure,
question?
sure. Give me another stat. Roll me another
This
one.
might this might answer something.
Okay.
Private jets do not pay their fair share. They make up 1 out of every 6 flights handled by the FAA, which is 17%, but contribute only 2% of the taxes that make up the trust fund that funds the FAA.
Okay. Why is that?
What do you mean, why is that? Are you kidding me? What do you mean, why is that? Why aren't they taxed more?
Yeah.
I don't know. Antoine, do you live here? Why aren't are you serious right now?
Am I on this planet? I'm hoping that
Live in this
that's a
country? Like, what are
question.
you
Well,
talking
that's a
about?
question that I would hope would have been.
They don't pay with the tax rates we pay.
Yeah, well, I just thought. I mean, here's the thing. That's one issue, and that's a good issue. It's something interesting to highlight. With the Democrats going after them and saying, "All right, you guys, you gotta pay, I guess, your fair share." If I would like to quote Bernie, all right, and now what do we do with that money? Because and it doesn't actually answer the first question that I was going to talk about, which is with regard to legislation. This is my gripe with American legislation, the way we go about things. It's like, okay, that sounds really good. It's a really cool soundbite. It makes sense if I wanted to be elected to be like, I'm going to go after these fat cat, debutantes who are mucking up our air, not paying their fair share, and we're gonna go after them and we're gonna make them pay more. So it's like you should vote for me that because you're an everyman and you don't have a jet, so you should be happy that I'm going after people who do. Uh, it sounds bad if you're a Republican, but I mean some people might say, all right, that makes sense. Now here's the question: with the legislation, are you just trying to generate money to then go and do something that helps actually solve the issue of climate change? Because this won't do it, right? Just taxing them, because if they're still flying, then they're still using the jets and they're still contributing. So it's like, is your tax high enough to actually curb behavior? Which I'm going to go out on a limb and
I'm
say
going to
it
say
is not.
I'm going to say no, since the
Yep,
median net worth of these people is $109
exactly,
million.
exactly. So you're not. So it's not legislation
Not
that's
about curbing it. It's about
what
it's about
it's
funding. Well,
about.
it's a,
It's about making people feel better.
well, I mean, so
What
to
is the
your
point of
point,
this?
if they got tax money from this and it
Okay,
did not go towards clean energy or something to mitigate climate change, then
it
yeah,
will.
the whole thing would be a scam. Like, everyone would be
Well,
very
that's
upset
what
about
that. Well, is that what that's what I'm saying? Is that in the platform? Is the point of the tax in order to offset something else that would
it. It
actually
doesn't,
help with climate change?
the way that I understand the way that things get made anyway, like, that stuff doesn't even get decided now. The bills aren't written yet and they aren't voted on yet. The
Yeah.
way that the money gets allocated, I mean, that is this anything get allocated purely in the way that it's proposed?
No,
No.
but that's not a symptom of, oh man, this whole government thing's really complex and it's really hard to explain to the everyday person. You really, you're just not going to understand the particulars of what's going on here. No, it's more about we are going to intentionally make this convoluted so that you don't understand that we're not actually doing anything, and these are more about sound bites and talking points when we get up and talk in front of a camera, which is what this sounds like. So it's irritating to me because
I don't think
it
it'll
doesn't
pass.
sound interesting to me
My thing is,
in
I
terms
don't
of
think
solving anything.
if it is to generate revenue to support climate action activities, then I think it's worth pursuing. Even if it is, I'm not confident that it's going to pass. But
Most likely not. No. But I'm
no.
just saying, even if here's the thing.
But
The
if there's no documentation to say we're going to tax you, that extra revenue is going here.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not going to pass. And the reason I'm saying, and not only is it not going to pass, but I'm saying the reason most people don't care, and this is where the Democratic Party fails, is that it doesn't pass and people just shrug because they didn't know why you were doing it to begin with.
I
Because
mean, I don't know. So I didn't know why. So I think that the inequity. So to me, what's more interesting than whether or not this passes is the awareness of the inequity, the
of what
awareness
inequity? That
that
private jet people fly a lot?
no, that people in a higher rung of society are using the infrastructure that everyone pays for, but they're paying less for it, and they're contributing more to pollution. And we don't have the funds to mitigate that pollution on our end where they can just escape it. That's the problem.
That's an interesting problem that no one is actually trying to solve. But it's interesting.
But
Yeah, it's
that
good
for
to
me,
bring
it's
it
the
up.
awareness of that.
Right. No, I get it. The rats are eating our building. The rats are eating the foundation, and we propose nothing to curb it.
Well, if it got passed, which it probably won't, at least in this iteration, because sounds like it's the first time anyone's trying to do this, and I don't know anyone that's talking about it. I assume it
No,
won't pass.
I've never heard about it.
But that's why I'm highlighting it, because I'm reading these stats, I'm going through it, and I'm trying to understand exactly how they are benefiting off of a system that the rest of us are oblivious that we're even funding. And it's like, wow, that's not right. They are responsible. The 1% is responsible for 50% of all of the pollution from this particular mode of transportation.
Right.
And they're not even paying into the infrastructure appropriately.
Well, I mean, it's like add it to the list.
And the output of that isn't just
infrastructure is a
the
problem.
output of that, and the output of that, if it stopped there, would be unfair.
Yeah.
But those emissions are detrimental to the environment, which are affecting the poorest and the middle class among us that can escape that impact. And they can. It's like on two different levels. It's the unfairness of the situation, and then it is the aftermath that none of us can survive.